What's up, world? So patch 1.2.1 just came out, and I'm going to do a quick video before I'm heading out to BlizzCon, so I'm going to make this fairly quick. But I do want to talk about what's in the patch per se that actually helps out Rogue. It's more than just bug fixes. There's changes to Temerity slightly, as well as a change to the aspect of elements. And if you're doing any imbuement builds, doesn't matter which core skill that you're using, these are pretty big buffs for you going forward. Now, I do want to talk about the Tibaults Will. If you haven't seen my video on how that's bugged, please check that out. However, it did not get fixed this patch. It doesn't mean that it may not get fixed in the future. It was reported a little bit later, so maybe they're having some issues figuring out like what the fix is and maybe how to give us some of that power back, or maybe they may just leave it alone. We don't know. But I do want to provide an option in case they do fix it that's going to offer you more power and more defense than Tibaults will ever do so in a typical rogue build. So let's talk about that real quick, and that's what this video is about. So let's start here first with the Temerity. So they pretty much fixed or gave us the ability to be able to heal more efficiently past full health into the barrier. So it's now going to be easier to be able to maintain the barrier alongside with the skulls for life on kill, as well as the undying vampiric power. And so if you have that, keeping up Temerity is actually extremely easy and extremely simple, which opens up another option to be able to take the conceited aspect, because we're going to have the barrier up quite a bit. So we can just put that, literally I like to put it on a two-hander because it's a pretty massive buff that I know that I can kind of count on, that's going to be reliable and up for quite some time. So this is a pretty huge multiplier that we can just kind of add to our damage. And another thing that goes along with this too as well is the aspect of elements. It was additive before this patch, now it is multiplicative. So if you're doing any dual imbuement builds especially, this is a pretty big bump to your damage, especially during the elements cycles. And even if you are not imbued at all, or one of the cycles where it's physical, lightning, and fire, and you don't have your imbuments, at least your physical damage gets buffed a little bit too as well. So it's not useless off cycle as well. So these two things, the elements as well as conceited along with Temerity, gives us a really nice bump to our overall damage. And now the cool thing about this too is that with Temerity, at least we're not dropping a lot of defense just to be able to get, you know, let's say a nice buff of combinations, unlike with Tibaults Will, well, without the bug itself. So here, at least with the barrier, it's actually pretty decent EHP. So you're not really, it's not really a big trade-off here for you to be able to get a little bit more offense too as well. So with that being said, it does mean that if you notice, I'm putting an offensive aspect on my amulet. So where does the defense part of this comes from? Or what happens to, well, one of your defensive stuffs, right? Well, you don't really need disobedience, and in most builds we do take disobedience to be able to cap out armor, but as long as you have armor roll on the chest, the helm, as well as the amulet, basically getting close to cap or right at cap is actually not that difficult. As you can see, I have, you know, almost 13k armor, which is more than enough for all content, the bosses and things like that. The only time where you might want even just a little bit more armor than this is if you're doing like T100 dungeons and you're finding yourself in very interesting situations. But even at this amount of armor, you really should be fine with the Temerity as well. And you also do want to make sure that you do take a few, you know, armor nodes in your Paragon, so therefore you can free up an aspect to, well, boost your damage up a bit more. And if you're killing them faster, obviously you're getting hit less, so your survivability, you know, goes up too as well. So now, how do I fit in all the offensive aspects too, now that we talked about the defense? Well, generally speaking, you for combo point builds, you typically just want, you know, Edge Master, the aspect of the expectant, which is pretty much these two, as you kind of see here. These two are like staples. Generally speaking, you will have rapid or maybe accelerating, but because we have ravenous vampiric power for all the attack speed, we really don't need that. But something you do want to make sure you keep is the corruption, because it's really good within with imbuments. So the only thing left to do is to try to fit your supporting power or your supporting aspect for whatever skill you're using. So with Barrage, branching volleys, well, it sucks. So you don't have to take that anywhere if you don't want to, which is actually why I have the Grasp of Shadow here, because I'm just like, I'd rather just take the ranks to core skills instead of the branching volleys to begin with. Or let's say I'm doing like pin shot rapid fire, I would just go with the traditional glove with the trick shot aspect on it. Or if I was doing flurry, I would do obviously the encircling blaze aspect. If I'm doing twist and blaze, you know, blade dancer, you get the idea. Whatever supporting aspect you can just put there and you can just call it a day there. But all in all, what this does is it gives you more power, gives you more defense, makes you a little bit more safe and more confident to be able to do whatever it is you're trying to do on your imbuement rogue spec. So I'm gonna have this updated on Maxroll. Hopefully I can get this out before I go to BlizzCon. Hopefully Barrage and the pin shot builds will be updated with this in mind. It kind of ignore the Penitent Greaves. This is a very glassy option. I would much recommend you just do Manglers with the regular boost with the trap resistance here, because it makes it so much easier to get your resistances. So kind of ignore Penitent Greaves. This is just a personal choice of mine. It's a lot harder to play. But yeah, other than that, I got a couple of gameplay footages on the back end, so enjoy. Although I would be careful about like stating that you have dupes, because they've started the ban. So just saying, like duped mats or whatever. Dude, my damage is actually kind of nice now. But congrats for having 2 Shakos though. most people don't even have 1. That includes me. Dude, what? That poison. Yeah, sometimes I do miss Hectic though. Like when it actually procs when it's supposed to. It's like really nice. But then when it doesn't, you're just like, or when it takes off the cooldowns of the wrong skills that you wanted.